What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is day four. So today's arms and shoulders, which is gonna be great. I'm kind of hype. I think I might need to adjust the camera a little bit, but one thing I came to realize too today or yesterday, I had church yesterday. That's why I don't work out typically on Wednesdays or on church days. Those are typically my rest days. And we had a little church function, and I ended up way overeating. I kind of forgot that we got fed food at this function, so I ate prior, and then I double ate, and so yeah. Something I'm dealing with today. I was a little heavier than I was Wednesday morning, sorry. It's a little heavier this morning. So there is that. But it's whatever, we keep moving. But today is shoulders and arms, and then tomorrow's legs. So I really don't know if I'd say this is day 4 or day 5. Unless I can't count. Because it might be, day 3 might have been Wednesday, so. Excuse me. But it is either day 4, and I did go ahead. I guess I really don't have an update from Tuesday night, but we are still clean off the pee, so that's good. Addressing that second chapter of the Biblical Guide to Masculinity about having a skilled trade as a man. I did read that, and it did talk about how it is something that you can fall back on, and how it's very vital for a young man or a man to have a skillful trade like Jesus did. Jesus was a carpenter. I'm sure you guys know that. So that was a reflection. I mean, I'm in the trade, so I guess that applies to me. So, whatever. That was something. I can't vividly remember the 3rd chapter, but I should be reading the 3rd chapter tonight. I unfortunately skipped out last night. I gotta hold myself accountable there. I also found out, so when I edit these videos, I have to sync the audio from my Rode mics to my video, and I realized that I'm just an idiot, and that I can literally just plug in the Rode microphone or the Rode transmitter into my phone, which will then record it as my mic. So then I don't have to do all the editing stuff, and it'll be way quicker, which is helpful to me because it means I get more sleep at night, because it still takes, depending on the video length, about an hour to upload, 45 minutes to an hour, so that's a nice little boost there. But unfortunately I don't have those cables with me, so I do have to go get those tonight. So hopefully tomorrow it'll be way easier, so that'd be good. Hope y'all are ready for some Thanksgiving. I'm gonna try and keep relatively low on my calories this Thanksgiving. Basically gonna do the strategy I heard from Michael in Higher Up Wellness, is pretty much minimal eating up until the Thanksgiving dinner, and then eat as much protein as possible. I think that's how I'm gonna go about Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. So I kind of keeping that calorie goal, at least. A couple things too, man. I mean, I'm coming to the realization that, at least through this, with this new year, I mean, I just need to be more myself. The whole new year, new me thing, you know, it doesn't really, I mean, a lot of the times, it's not you, it's just that you aren't working hard enough. And I think I came to that realization too, that it can be the same you, but you've got to just apply yourself. You know, a lot of the times you just aren't applying yourself, which doesn't mean a new you. It just means a better you. You know what I mean? So that's something too. Sorry, guys. But better you, not necessarily a new you, but a better you. And a lot of the times you just got to put the phone down. I'm realizing the more I put my phone down, the better and more prepared I am for the day. The less I'm on my phone, the more prepared I am for the day, which is not something I think I'd say. You know, I thought I'd say, but I'm pretty minimally on my phone. I mean, I do, unfortunately, play Clash of Clans probably a little too much at work. But as far as like doom scrolling and all that, very good thing to stop doing if possible. Try your hardest to not doom scroll and delete those apps that you might be doom scrolling on, because it's just causing you to be that worse person. It's causing you to be lazy, and a lot of the times, you know, you're close enough to you're close to your goals just by putting your phone down, just getting on your phone less. I mean, if you're not on your phone scrolling through getting that dopamine, then you got to look for it, you got to search for it, and you know, it's your responsibility to not put easy dopaminergic triggers on it, or things that give you high dopamine. I don't know why I have to say it like that, but things that give you that high dopamine hit, they need to be something that you work for. It can't be something that, you know, video games or stuff like that. I mean, it's got to be something you got to grind for. And I can honestly say, when it comes to motivation, that motivation for me comes through the thought of the high of finally finishing it. So I haven't really committed to many things in my life. The few things I have committed, I ended up quitting. But I hear, you know, all these motivational speeches and all these motivational sayings talking about the high of success. And the high of success sounds really intriguing to me, to be honest with you, because I've never felt it. I've never felt that feeling. I want to know that feeling. Something I really, and you know, I feel like once I get there, I'll better be able to explain it to y'all. But as of right now, I'm basically searching for that feeling, and I won't feel it till I succeed. But yeah, man, I mean, I almost didn't want to make a video today because I was like, man, you know what, I don't even want to do it because it'll be so much easier with the new cable or doing the cables the right thing. I'm like, you know what, it may suck because I got out of work late too. It may suck, but I gotta keep that promise, you know? Because if you don't keep that promise, you're just gonna use it as an excuse. Oh, I already did it. Well, guess what? You know, like, since I'm a mechanic, I got tool trucks. Tool truck guy had it today. He had a bowl of candy out, man. I was looking at that candy like something else, let me tell you. But I was like, no. Like I said previously, I know that that's the start of my slope. I let myself eat that candy. Guess what? I'm gonna let myself start doing this and that and this. And now all of a sudden, I've built so much momentum in the wrong way. I built negative momentum, downward momentum into an outcome that I don't want. And then that outcome that I don't want gets even easier to come to fruition. You know, my outcome might be I don't really want to watch porn, but guess what? At the end of the day, I end up watching porn just because I let myself slip down that slippery slope and fall down into those habits and fall down and build so much momentum in the wrong way that I can't you can't recover. And then once you can't recover, you know, you might not be able to pull your head out of that space for a while, and then you're stuck doing it multiple days in a row, and you're doing that bad thing that you don't want to do for multiple days in a row, and guess what? Now you're like, man, I suck. Now your confidence is in the drain. Now you didn't keep that promise, and now you just go through this endless cycle. That's why you're stuck. You've got to hold yourself accountable, and you've got to take your life into your own hands. You need to stop letting your body tell you what you need. You need to tell yourself what you need. I hope that makes sense. Your body wants that pleasure, but your brain knows that 10 years down the line, that pleasure is going to be nothing but pain. Right? You know, if you're addicted to porn, look at yourself in 10 years. You might be such a degenerate that you never had a wife. Or you might be able to get a wife just because you're lusting so hard and you're striving for that sexual partner that you just kill your relationship. You had this great relationship, or you could have had this great relationship, but your mind was so sexually driven that you couldn't handle yourself. You couldn't go one day without it. Oh, I'm 2 days without it, you know, whatever. I haven't personally been there. I can't speak too well on that, but I would imagine, especially in such a dark place that I was addiction-wise with, you know, that I was always like, man, there's no way I could go more than one day. It's like, that's crazy, you know. You're putting unrealistic expectations on your mind. And man, that kills you. That kills every bit of your mind. Same thing with the pleasure of food. You know, brain or your body might be like, ooh, I want that pleasure. Ooh, I want that feeling of that good food. But your brain and your soul know that you in 10 years, you're going to be fat, you're going to be overweight, you're going to have health problems, you're not going to be able to play with your kids as much as you want. You may not be able to, you know, satisfy, you know, like just being real. You may not have a goal, you know, like you might just not be able to pull a woman. Just because you wanted that quick pleasure and you want to make the down payment today for you in the future. And that's a huge motivator for me, man. Like, I know I talk about, I messed up my meal here, I messed up my meal there, but in the day, we're taking small steps every single day. And I am locked in during the day. I came to the realization that once I let myself have that little bit of food, I'd fall down. I'd build that energy in a negative way. Once I built that energy in the negative way, it'd compound and compound and compound, and then I'd find myself in the rut in my addictive tendencies. And then guess what? Once those addictive tendencies were, man, you know, I don't care, whatever. Like, I'll have a little snack here and there. And then it would just repeat. And then guess what? 2 weeks later or a week later, you'd be in the same spot you were a week prior. And I just found that I feel better. I feel better when I don't let myself have that high energy stuff. Now, granted, I am pretty hungry, you know, occasionally throughout the day, but usually I'm able to, you know, down a Diet Coke and feel pretty good, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, you have your little snacks. I have fruit for in between my meals. And you just sit there and you ask yourself, I know what this does to me. Why would I want to do that to myself again? And that's, I think, a very aha light bulb moment. Is you sit there and you're like, I know exactly what's going to happen when I eat this. So I sit there and I look at that like little mini Kit Kat bar, and this might sound insane to people, but I think about, I know exactly what I'm going to do tonight if I eat that Kit Kat bar. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to eat that Kit Kat bar and I'm going to be like, man, that was good. Ooh, you know, and I have a vending machine right once I walk into the break room. I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to heat up my lunch, and I'm going to be like, you know what sounds good with this? A bag of chips. I'm going to eat that bag of chips. Now I've built up 2 times the momentum in the negative way. Then I might skip on a workout. And then I finish the day off. I might, slow down at work. That compounds. And then I hit a workout. I'm like, oh man, I'm really not feeling it because I slowed down at work. Now guess what? I go hit my workout. Like, man, I'm pretty tired. It's pretty late. I gotta get home. I gotta make this. I gotta make food. I gotta get food. I gotta eat food. And I gotta take a shower. I gotta sleep. This whole thing. Maybe I want to play some video games later tonight. Okay, well, here we are. Now I'm looking at all these pleasurable things, and then I might go and I might get home and I'm tired and I'm feeling and I let my guard down, and now I'm here. Now we're here. And now I look at this bathroom, which I've done, the thing, what the thing is, before in plenty of hundreds of times, if not thousands, and you think about it. And if you don't have that mental toughness built up, that momentum built up at the end of the day to lean back on, to prove to yourself, hey, we did good today. Why are we going to mess it up here? And you just let it go. And, and that all stems from a tiny little Kit Kat bar. Like, that's how serious it can be. It can be different for you. It could be a whole entire different scenario. But for me, it's a little snack. I get that little snack, and I start letting go. I start loosening the grip I have on my mental capacity to be better. I'm like, I can change it tomorrow. I'll do a little more tomorrow. And then guess what happens tomorrow? You don't do a little bit tomorrow. And just come to that realization someday, man, that it's not worth it. You hear all these older folks saying it's not worth it. And you're like, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's so funny because everybody talks about how as a younger child you should have taken advice. It's just such an endless cycle. But if you can learn truly to take advice and to apply it at a young age, you will succeed. If you don't go around acting like you know everything, like you're the best, like you're, like your shit don't stink, forgive my language, and you take that advice, and take every bit of advice with a grain of salt. You shouldn't take everything as gospel, unless it's the gospel. But you sit there and you take it with a grain of salt. You understand, and you think about it. Somebody gives you advice, you're like, logically, how is this? And if you can, get them to explain it why, Because I've had some things that my parents say, and I'm like, what? Why would I do that? I've also had things I'm like, I have no idea what to do, so I go ask. And then YouTube's also a good thing too. YouTube's such a great way to double check advice. I tell you to do a certain split, blah 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 blah. Granted, that's a little more, I feel like splits are way more applicable on a case to case basis. What might work for you might not work for me, and what works for me might not work for you. So you need to understand that. But in a practical advice standpoint, if somebody tells you to, go put all of your money on, black, and clearly that's not a good advice, And you can literally go to YouTube and be like, what's the likelihood that I would land on black during a situation? And then it'd be like, tell you all these things, and probably tell you the bad things about gambling and all those things. And then you can you can double check that advice. That might not be the best example, but you get what I'm saying, though. Everybody has a tidbit of advice, and then the internet can also amplify, or it can help contradict or give you another perspective. That's the great thing about the internet, is that you can have a different perspective. If somebody gives you a perspective about something, you can go look up the other perspective and be like, whatever. A lot of people don't like to look up the other perspective, like, say, especially politically, but we're not going to get political on this. I'm just saying there's people on either side that don't feel like looking at the other. They just straight up don't look at the other side. and then they become so close-minded and they sit in this echo chamber that they just believe whatever's said. And that's that sounds like such hell on earth to think like that. You got to be able to be a free thinker and to learn and to take all the points and to kind of put them together, and then you apply them. And if you learn something, I feel like that's very evidence based. There's science. You could say in the fitness industry there's science based and evidence based. Well, evidence based is a lot of the times based off science based. If I'm an evidence based person and I look at the scientific study that says this exercise is better than this exercise, and then I hit this exercise for however I've been hitting it for so long, and then I hear about this new exercise, and then I do it, and I'm like, holy crap, that feels amazing. Then I'm going to keep doing that exercise. You've just created your own evidence, but somebody else might go and they might do it and they might, oh, this feels terrible, I'm going back to my OG exercise. And guess what? They're evidence based. That's evidence based, and they may not be doing it right, or you might be doing it wrong, and that's and insert whatever you want to say, but I think that's the best way to go, because it's that happy medium. It's not full bro science, and it's not full science. Full science can be flip-flop like every month, which is kind of gnarly. But you look at evidence and you're like, okay, well, I know close to failure. I know this exercise is at least pretty darn good. It's not some terrible exercise, but it may not be the most optimal. But I understand that this is the most optimal for me, because that optimal exercise doesn't feel good. That crappy exercise also doesn't feel good. But then there's this, the Goldilocks exercise that feels amazing. And guess what? That's the new exercise you do. And that's completely fine. There's no problem with that. You should not feel bad for the exercise that you like to do. And I think that's the big problem with people that are like, you can only do this exercise, otherwise, like this whole vaulting exercises, which is crazy. It's like, you really think that exercise didn't get that random 80s bodybuilder his huge biceps? That kind of thing. Like, you look at the evidence and you're like, clearly it works. Clearly it works. Now, granted, they're on steroids, but you still got to stimulate the muscle if you're on steroids. You don't just, a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Your muscle protein synthesis is constantly up 24/7, 365, but in a sense, you still have to stimulate it, and the stimulating might look different for everybody, but there's a bunch of exercises that stimulate the same parts of the muscle, but in more comfortable, different ways that you might like versus somebody else that might be more prone to their anatomy. Anyways, huge tangent there, but basically saying pick your favorite exercises, dog. Who cares? Who cares what they say? Somebody, you might post an exercise and somebody be like, it's not the most optimal. Man, who cares? I got a gnarly pump from it and I stimulated the muscle. Merry Christmas. Praise God. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I think I'm about done. I know I've been rambling a lot on a lot of my stuff, but probably put on some music, get hype. I'll catch y'all at the gym. Should be starting off with hammer curls, although I'm thinking about whether to switch that around, because I'm trying to think. I think the brachialis might be involved in both long head and short head exercises, so it might be a good idea to train short head and long head first, but I'll look into it. I'll think about it. I'll have to look at it, but I'll catch y'all in there. Oh my. I need to drop the weight. Holy shit. Biceps are one of those, you know, like the more on the, I really don't know. High intensity, how I feel about it. But this is second set knocked out here in a second, but I don't really know. Like, I feel like just the high intensity stuff or pump work, you know, just kind of one of those things. So you got to be like evidence based on it, which I don't really want to term. I don't really want to coin that terminology, but you know, like realistically, if you don't like volume training, then who cares? But like this feels the best for me a lot of the times, just because you get that nice good pump, but you also get some nice strength reps, especially on hammer curls at least. Like all the other curls I can kind of deal with being a little weak and just getting those reps out, but on hammer curls it's like there's such, like the brachialis is just so vital and so many movements and so many things that you do that it's like, man, kind of just want to ego lift, you could say, but just that heavier weight, the lower reps kind of thing, that just where that strength kind of comes in. Don't get me wrong, bigger muscles, stronger muscle, but you know, like I hit what, like 8 reps, I believe, somewhere in there. So, like realistically, I don't think I can add weight yet. That's one of those. It's probably going to be a couple weeks of 40s just to try it out, you know, because you're not going to be able to up weight every single time. But you know, once I can get the 40s for like a solid 8 to 10 to 12, somewhere in there, and I can obviously hit these 35s for a pretty good amount. But you know, just one of those. Especially biceps. But anyways, let's just continue. Oh my gosh. Whew. Gotta cheat that last one quite a bit, but I think it'll be alright. It was good though. Got a lot of solid ones. Solid like 8 to 9. I thought I got the 40s for 8. Probably got them closer to 6, but you know, I lose count because it'd be like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think next is those side delt flies, raises. They're very typical side delt exercises, but get a bit of rest in here because my freaking biceps are burning. Getting here started whenever we start that. Be right back. All right, here we go. Side delts. So goal with this is to be straight up or straight, leg wise, hinged, about that 15 degrees, and just 45 out. Whew. Oh my God. All right. So. Got 25s. Like one rep in the tank. I think if I really yoinked it out, I could have gotten another one, but these ones should be kind of where the form breakdown is going to happen. I'm going to try and be as strict as possible for as many reps, but obviously there will be some form breakdown. But hey man, like, feeling good though. Weights are moving good. 35s. The reason I do that hinge is mechanically. Heard this from Lyle McDonald, by the way. But that 15 degrees, then your side delt is at that, is on the top of your shoulder, whereas it's kind of like canted in the back, you know. These side delt, and it's the medium, and then it's the, you know, kind of pushes back like that. So when you get that slight bend, now it's on the top, now it's on that top part. So then you're mechanically leveraging it the best as possible. But I don't know, probably doesn't need to be that complicated, but it makes sense. It was good every time. Beta Alanine is going nuts right now. I ain't go front. Ooh. Alright, we're gonna hit this one too. Oh my. Oh my God. Here we go. Hold up. Oh my. Whew. Goodness. Alright. I think I got rear delta next. I'll be over there. Alright, y'all. Personally, a big fan of doing rear delt flies like this. More of the leaned over the bench kind of thing. So it's been helping me grow it a lot, but start this one. Alright, right there. And right before pure failure. But I'll hit this top set. That's complete failure. Open it up. Partials. A whole bang. A little shebang. Up the weight a little bit. Hoping for 6. I believe that was somewhere around the 10 to 12. Lost count, so you know you're very typical bodybuilder guy or weightlifter. Forget your freaking rep count. but Yeah, man, I'm hoping for at least 6+. 6+ would be the goal. Exactly what I want. I've been, same as if you remember my back training, trying to hold these at the top. Trying to keep my hands flat. Because I find whenever my shoulder gets weak and my left hand starts to angle like this, even though it's flat on the handle, it starts to pressurize like that. So I found that to be something I gotta work on or watch out for, is keeping my hands completely flat as I go through the movement. And then that should be able to, or that helps me with my mind-muscle connection, my feeling of actually hitting my rear delts. But this is honestly my favorite. Cable flies don't do it for me, or cable rear delt flies don't do it for me at all. And then I haven't really done dumbbell flies, but I'm sure they'd be alright. I think after this it'll be some curls, some easy bar curls on the cables. And then from there, so a little more side delts. I usually hit, I've been doing 2-2, so I'll do 2 dumbbell, 2 cable. Kind of get that, you get that resistance curve on the cable. Once you get those dumbbells, I mean, I guess I kind of use them as like an ego or more of like a landmark kind of thing. Seeing if we go up in weight more and more, you know what I mean? But should be good. Simple. Oh my god. Whew. Oh my goodness. Sorry I hit the mic. But it feels so good. Whew. Alright. Now for some cable curls. Alright. This one, easy bar curl, but I do it with my elbows behind my shoulder joint. It'd be 100. I can't remember if that's the long head or the short head. Pretty sure if I remember correctly, it's the long head. It makes sense to me that the short head's kind of in front of you. You know, that inward flexion, whereas you're kind of extended in that. But it's whatever. These feel awesome. I've been doing these recently, and they've just felt amazing. So I kept doing them. And I noticed after I did these 45-pound plates, I feel like freaking lightweight in my hands when I pick them up. Which, you'd think that'd be normal, but not necessarily. My goodness. Whew. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, go ahead. You're good. Yeah, yeah. Feel free. My bad. Hope not in the way. Move it out the way. All right. That's pretty all right. Pretty much went to failure, but I got like 12. At 12. No idea what I'm gonna do with this. Maybe even double up. Ooh. Get that second set started here in a sec. Alright, so this is probably one of my favorite machines in here. Is the some sort of, you know, that raised elbow position curls, but it feels good. Like, it gives me some nasty pumps. I don't really know what it really hits, but yeah, it's pretty great. First one, I do these arm to arm because I'm trying to build that evenness, that strength. Just realized I was recording this wrong. Sorry, gents. But there we go. All right. Yeah, man. Just I got the left side. I can see it a little bit in the mirror in front of me. I was like, oh crap. But you know, it was pretty good. I want to say I got even on both sides, but I really don't know. Try to at least get even, you know, on the whole weak side first, and then do however many reps on the strong side. So that's what I do. I don't really know. I don't know what this works, man. I think this works your brachii. That's what the machine says. Biceps brachii, brachialis, and forearm. I don't know how true that is, but I think that's true. So I'll probably have to look for a different short head workout, but this thing feels great. Sounds like I'll have to mix it in between on, that's probably why I'm so shot when I do these. These are usually my last one on every arm day. So that's probably why I'm so shot at the end of the day, because I do so many brachialis, or I do that big hammer curl session. It's probably worth it if I just start doing these for a minute. Probably got a lot of fatigue built up in my brachii, but I'll have to test it out. Yeah, short arm exercise or short bicep. Probably have to try and figure out an exercise. But here we go. Last one, and then pump. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Alright. 6 piece. Yeah. I'm gonna have to be more cautious about my bicep exercises, but time to go pose. See what happens. Check pump. Alright. Looking pretty mediocre. It feels like anyways. But guess they look big when you push them up against yourself. Okay, maybe it's a lot better than I thought. Not too bad. Definitely need to work on the left bicep more. Triceps always been a strong point for me, but yeah, man, time to go get some cardio. I'll catch you on the car. All right, y'all. Cardio's done. I am exhausted. My back hurts. At work. I am gone. Today feels like a productive day. It's not one of those days where, I feel like every day's felt pretty productive recently, but it's one of those days where you're like, holy cow, it's productive. You got so much done. You were locked in. I was in the flow state at work for quite a while, so that felt good. But I am ready to eat some food, bro. I am so ready to eat some food. Hope y'all having a good one, dude. Hope y'all are improving every day. This should be your goal. 1% every day compounds, You get 1% better. What's 1% of 1%, 1.1. 1.01. It's one of those, But if you are 100% right now, and you're 1% better every day, then you're 101. And then I think it's, what would that be? Like 101 and some change. You get it though. It compounds. So I mean, if every day you're constantly compounding your progress, you are getting drastically better the longer you go on. You know what I mean? It makes sense. The longer you do it, the way better you get. If that makes sense. I feel like that makes plenty of sense. It's the same thing as if you do a job for 20 years, then you should be good at it, If you've compounded all that knowledge and all that experience for 20 plus years, like, you're gonna be good at it. But if you're not compounding at all, then you're never gonna be better, If you're constantly like, oh, I'm gonna start that thing, and then you never start it, you're never giving it a chance to compound. Like, if you invest $50, that's something, that's me or you doing the first thing to start that thing you don't want to do, or that thing you want to do. And then, that $50 the next week or month, that's another thing you do. I hope that makes sense. Like, if you don't start at all, you're never gonna get good, which is very basic. Don't get me wrong, but I want you to understand it in the way of compounding. If you never give yourself the chance to compound on information, experience, habits, anything, it's never gonna get better. And guess what? It's all your fault if you never get better, because you're the one making those choices. You're the one making the choice never to start, never to get better, never to start getting better, never to pursue getting better. So if you don't pursue getting better, then you don't deserve anything. You don't deserve anything in life. Nobody deserves anything in life. And you need to understand that. Like, some people have it better. I will admit I am the product of good times. You know, they say good men create good times make weak men. I am a product of that. So I have to artificially make my life harder. Because I've lived so long in my life not having a hard life, you know? Like, my life has not been hard, truthfully. But I am not happy where I am. And the only way that I'm going to become happy or even begin to start becoming happy is to start. That's why I started this. That's why I started doing all the other benefits. You know, making my bed, keeping my room clean no matter what. You know, living by these principles and setting these principles in my life so that I have something to fall back on. And I have something to tell myself and show myself every day that I'm improving, that I have improved. And if you never start that, you are never going to improve. You are never going to get where you want to be in life. You're never even going to have the chance. Like, I may never get where I want to be in life, but I at least have the chance. You know, I have this chance. And if I go all out and I do it forever, like, I've heard it, you're bound to succeed. So why not just start now? It's going to take time. I'm sure if you watch workout videos, you know it takes time. You're not going to have a huge physique in even 5 years, especially as a natural. Now, as an enhanced, you might, you know, there's a very good possibility you could get a super great physique in 5 years, but as a natural, I mean, you probably have a pretty darn good physique, but it wouldn't be, you know, the most fascinating physique. But I don't, you know, necessarily, you know, a lot of naturals, especially, we can never get to like a super physiological looking physique. That kind of sucks, but it never hurts to be in good physical shape. You know, I don't really see the point of steroids. You know, I see the point. Sorry, I don't see the long-term benefit in my mind of taking steroids. Like, it just doesn't. The fact, just all the negative things, especially with my main goal in life being having a family and living for my family and being able to support my family and be there emotionally for my family and enjoy time with my family. Steroids just don't seem that, you know. I used to be at the point where I'm like, man, I kind of want to take steroids. But now I realize I have scoliosis. So I don't know how cooked my physique is going to be when I'm down to like lean, right? It could be super cooked. It could not be cooked. I don't really know. You know, I really never knew. I really have no idea. It's a very slight case of, slight case of scoliosis. It's about 22 degrees. It's probably gotten worse. I don't know if it's gotten better. I really don't know. So my physique could be cooked. So then there's not another, you know, then there's no point of taking steroids. I'm basically just doing it for health reasons and to have the best possible physique that I can as a person with scoliosis. But I just want you to understand that if you're not taking any steps to improve, you're never going to improve. And that sounds basic, but it's the truth. And there's no way, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, no ways around it. It's going to take time, but why not start now? If it took you 10 years to do it, and you knew you got it at 10 years, why not start now? Why would you not want to start now? You know, if somebody told me in 10 years I'd have the perfect life, I'd have, you know, this amazing wife, I'd have these beautiful children, I'd start whatever they want me to do, you know. But you understand what I'm saying. I'd start whatever I need to do to find that out. And that's what I need you to understand, that that's how it is. You need, like, don't believe this negative thought. Don't put so much negative energy into, I'm never going to have a wife, I'm never going to have a girlfriend, there's no way I'll never find love. And just put positive energy into one day, I will. And one day, and I need to work towards being the man that needs that to be in that situation where I have this beautiful wife and beautiful children and nice life, because it's what you have to do. It's not it's not an option, it's an obligation. That's the only way. You can't just manifest it. I mean, I guess people say you can, like, there's a sense, but you can't just puff it out of thin air. You got to work for it, and God isn't just gonna, He plops stuff on your plate. Absolutely. The Lord will provide. And you may not have to work for it. But your work might be prayer. If you understand that. You may not say, I didn't physically work for something that the Lord blessed me with, but in a physical sense, you prayed every day. You believed. In a spiritual sense, you worked. And it's the same way in life. The Lord, He may open doors, but you have to physically move and get up and do them. And you can't just sit around. I realize that now. I can't just sit around. I am going to hate my life later whenever I look back and just think I shouldn't have been sitting around. Or you have that analogy about, the Lord asking you what you did, and you're like, nothing. You never gave me anything. It's like, what? He gives you so many things. You just have to take advantage and use those gifts and use those talents that you have. Yeah, man, I gotta get food. I am starving right now. I hope y'all are having a good day. Hope y'all have a great night or rest of your day. I want y'all to win. Get started today. Think about it every day. And find that purpose in your heart on why you want to be there. And think about it every time that you think you want to slack. Every time you think you want to give in. Every time you think it's not important. Every time you think you can start tomorrow. Think about that every time you want to do any of those things. And I promise you, if you put your mind to it and you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, you will be there. As long as it's in the Lord's will. Don't forget that too. Don't be vain. But God bless y'all. Y'all have a great day. I'll catch y'all.